Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all around good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews. And today we are going to be talking about Mandalorian Season 3, Chapter 20, The Foundling, as well as an update from Toronto Comic-Con. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, Hannah. Hello, Matthew. Hello, everybody. Yeah, that's a lot of people on the show today. I just would like to say after this episode that came out of Mandalorian, I didn't get a chance to watch the episode until like 11:30 at night the next day. And I never want to hear anyone ever complain about spoilers on the social media ever again, because you guys have no chill. Like, oh my God. Nope. I don't care about spoilers, so it does not affect me in the slightest. I went on Instagram knowing full well there was a decent chance I'd get spoiled, but I wasn't expecting to see Ahmed's face everywhere right. The way it was. I was glad to get spoiled for that. I was glad to know that one. That was one I liked knowing going into the episode. Yeah. It took some of the stress of like, who is this going to be out of this? But like, oh my gosh. And it's, you know what it is? It's almost always, not always. This isn't a complete declarative statement, but it's almost always the people who complain the loudest when they get spoiled doing the spoiling. And so I'm not going to start spoiling stuff, but man, you couldn't blame me if I did. Some of you guys need to relax. But yeah, I'm very excited to for this episode. Looking forward to breaking down the Mando and sharing what we got out of Toronto Comic-Con, and also maybe talking a little movie news. And late in the show, at the end of the show, I have a little special treat for everybody, a little bit of a Celebration London preview with another friend of the show. So that's coming up at the end of the show, but we got a long way to get to go first. It's going to be a great episode.
Heck yes. Also joining us, it's the founder, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Why, hello there, everyone. Yeah, the spoilers have been, especially related to Ahmed Best, just insane. Like, I posted an out of context picture of Jar Jar Binks on our social media, and people lit me up. Let me tell you, they hated me for that. I made some enemies that last night, and then I woke up the next day and people were like, IGN and Variety are just posting pictures of them. Like, where's your anger at these people? You're mad at me, but they're just away with this. Like, so it's just crazy. I mean, now today is just like boom. Like, usually people like are kind of waiting till the weekend. No, it's everywhere. You better hide. Go get offline. Period. If you have not seen the episode.
I mean, if you haven't seen the episode yet and you're listening to this, true. I mean, you're kind of already spoiled it. So there's really no point at this point. They save the kid from the dinosaur at the end. Spoiler alert.
Wait, what?
What? Who'd have thunk it?
Also joining us, it's Hannah from the Rayside.
G'day there. I didn't think I was going to be here, but I heard a certain Matthew from Iron Cannon was going to be here, and I had to pop in. It's going to be a good... I'll only give my brief thoughts on the episode when we get into the discussion, but yeah, on the spoiler discussion point of view, though, I too got roasted for not even spoiling anything. I posted a reaction video to the episode, and all I had in the thumbnail was the image of, you know, like the classic who was like breaking through the door, which is an
From the
image
trailer, yeah.
I got from the trailer, right?
Yeah.
And someone's like, angry react, you spoiled this for me. And I'm like, this is from the trailer.
Yeah, you
What?
can't. That's a fight I've been having with people since 2017. If it's in the trailer, if
Yeah.
it's in the
Yeah.
TV spot, it's fair game. Ray
Yeah.
holding Kylo's lightsaber was in a TV spot. It was fair to share
Yeah,
in the lead up to
I'm
The
with
Last Jedi.
Yeah,
I will
and
take
then
that one.
I
will
posted
die on
one
that
of
hill.
the posted one of the spoilers without context things, which is like the
Yeah.
point of it is just like it's without context. You don't
I love
understand what's going on
those.
until you've seen those. But people were like, "Well, you called it a spoiler, so it is technically a spoiler." I'm like, "That's not how it works. That's not the point of it. What are you talking about?"
I genuinely do love those posts that you guys do, because like when I can't see the episode, I love seeing them and trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
I was,
Oh.
yeah, I had an epiphany at 3 a.m. laying in bed. I'm like, oh God, I found something. It's the Jurassic World thing. I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do
It's
this.
so good. Oh, that was a good one.
Uh,
One more spoiler thing before we move on is on the 4th of March. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, on the 4th of March, I made a tweet saying hashtag Jar Jar saved Grogu.
Right.
And I've retweeted it. I've retweeted it because I'm like, holy shit.
were-
This
yeah.
is right.
You were
This
right.
is right.
You nailed
3
it.
weeks ago, I called it.
Yeah.
And someone found that tweet, didn't look at the date I posted it, and was like, don't spoil it for me. That is so bad for all the fans. You've spoiled it. And I had to reply, I'm like, dude, literally look at the date. And then the guy was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Oh my
that's
God.
totally fine.
So
Anyway.
I got spoiled for Maul and Solo a very similar way, because we had a guest on the show the week before Solo came out, and she just sort of was like, my dream scenario would be Maul is in this movie.
Nice.
And it was a total hypothetical, and I hadn't read the spoiler for that at that point, and so I just took it as a total well, yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
just a
as
great-
if that'll happen.
And I was there, and I knew it already, so I was just like,
but then someone DM'd me on Twitter at that point when I still cared about Twitter, and they're like, you got to take this part out of the episode. It's a spoiler. I'm like, what are you talking about? Speculation. And they're like, no, he's in the movie. I'm like, what? Am I being
So
punked?
insane.
Oh my god.
It was great.
Whew.
Great.
Anyway.
Also joining us this week, heard him a little bit already. From Ion Cannon, he's our senior karaoke correspondent. Matthew, welcome back to the show.
I will take that. I will be again. Chris Sabat is still the senior tie-in materials correspondent. I can be the senior karaoke correspondent. That's lots of fun. I will say, I will counterpoint on the spoiler thing. Some of us have to work 9 to 5. You work. I know you work earlier. So ROT13 guys. ROT13.com. If you want to actually have conversations about things, you can't really. I mean, maybe on Twitter, on Instagram, there's like the adult filter that you can use for images. I'm serious. I see that all the time, and it's great. It's fine. Full on Keller and Beck, Jedi robes, right there.
With
Yeah,
the adult filter.
No, like full on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I love the Discord server. I mute the Discord server every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Just to be safe. It's one of those things. Like it actually, it didn't. When I watched the episode that night, it wasn't as impactful to me. So there's the counterpoint. I got to get over it. I got over it.
Well,
I watched it again tonight, and it was a lot more impactful. But
this is what I was saying, right? Like, people were posting it like it was nothing. Like people were posting it, and I get the impulse behind it. You're excited by it. You just saw Ahmed Best as a Jedi save Grogu. That's exciting. I'd want to talk about that immediately too. But if you are somebody who does really care about spoilers, or even if you're like me and you don't, just put yourself in the shoes of the person who is working 9 to 5 and hasn't watched the episode yet, or is working, in my case, 7 to 3 and hasn't watched the episode yet. And think like, am I going to spoil that for that person? Now, again, on the flip side of that, it is on those of us who can't watch it right away to, take steps to avoid it. which you're doing. You said you mute the Discord server, so that's a good way to go about it. But it should there's a tightrope that's got to be walked here, where both sides have got to be conscious of the other side and find the middle ground.
I just think 9 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning. That's a little.
Well, yeah. Well, that's
can we just give it a day, guys?
And that's what I was. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I sort of find it funny when people complain about spoilers and then immediately post one when they're excited about something. It's like, come on.
And can we all agree, for those of us who still use Twitter, that like doing the whole spoilers and then ... down and then putting the spoiler with the picture does not work.
Yeah,
it's useless.
The picture. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wow.
We'll move off of that. We'll talk about the actual Mandalorian episode in a
I'm over it. I'm full
bit.
disclosure. I'm over it. I'm good.
But before we get into that, let's talk a little Toronto Comic Con, because that was this past weekend. Matthew and I were both there. We walked the floor. We went to panels. We bought things. We talked each other out of buying other things. It was a great time was had by all. But Matthew, you had the best experience. I had a good experience, but you had the best experience, and arguably I'd put it up there in like the top 10 experiences anybody had this weekend at Toronto Comic Con. And that involves someone who, if you just went by their character on The Mandalorian, you would think is not actually that much fun. But in reality, because they're an actor, it was a lot of fun. And that's Miss Emily Swallow. So explain what happened.
Yes.
Tell us what went down. And we may or may not have video in just a minute.
So like you said, Emily Swallow, she Hollywood actor, the armor on The Mandalorian, in case people are wondering. I of course was curious, what does she look like under the mask? So I had a sense of that. Anyway, she does the Q&A, the usual Q&A on the Sunday, but she said to Fan Expo, the company that organizes all these cons, including Toronto Comic Con, I want to do a karaoke night on Friday night, and because the Q&A that's serious and can have fun moments, but I also want to just invite people to come up and have fun and connect with me and connect with each other. And she was full on right there with us. We were right there with her. There were maybe about 30 of us, because I guess that was the thing. It was the perfect number of people, because it wasn't such a huge crowd, but it wasn't too small that it was weak or weird or whatever. But right at the beginning, she comes right up onto the floor with us. And so the way this is just illustrates what she's actually like in the real world. So the way the room was set up is that there was the stage, and then some higher tables, and then the chairs all the way back. And we thought all of us kind of plebeian folks who only paid the $20 to do the attend in the song, we got to sit up further back or whatnot. She comes in there, says, heck no, bring the chairs up, hang out, come on up forward, right on in front of it, around us in the crowd, and immediately sets the tone for it's gonna be a fun, chill night. It is interesting that I don't see her on screen as her face all that much. I haven't watched Supernatural, so I wasn't as starstruck as I may have been if I had seen her. So I full on was like, but I did know what she looked like and who she was, and so I did get in my this is the way. So I don't know how much more I go into, but I'll say one more thing. Shout out to our buddy Kareem, because fun thing. So in our little kind of Toronto guys group chat, it was going back and forth. Should I buy a ticket? Should I buy a ticket to actually sing? Because it was the $20 anyway. And I kind of come across as saying, I don't know if I really want to go sing karaoke. What I meant was, I don't think I can go to karaoke and not sing. That's the whole point, right? So Kareem, we kind of figured out he owed me for a movie ticket or whatever. So he was all, okay, I'll buy your ticket too. He thought I was being cheeky and kind of pushing me into something I didn't want to do. Turns out it was a really awesome, fun, nice surprise that he bought me the $20 you get to sing. Yeah. And so I was able to go up there, and when I get into karaoke, I'm like, I go for it. I'm that, again, that's part of the point. It's part of the fun. is to just
110%.
go for it. And that was the second song, and then I picked, of course, a Star Wars song that I've wanted to sing in karaoke for so long.
Which is, can we know the song you chose?
It was the Saga Begins by Weird Al. So
Gotta go Weird Al. Gotta go Weird Al.
And then
Classic.
so there's that. But then next time, Kareem, you are gonna sing if you're watching. I'll help you. Anyway, he bought a singing ticket, but he chickened out. If I can
check it out. Which if you know Kareem, is the most surprising thing in the world.
Yeah,
that he was the one that chickened out.
Yeah.
Because so this, as Matt would say, this was an after hours event. You bought a ticket. You could buy a ticket and just go and watch that. I think that was $10, or you could buy a ticket and go and sing. That was $20. Then you could buy there was like $100 ticket where you could do a duet with Emily.
Yeah. So you're good.
Which was, full on. So yeah, there'd been a lot of discussion amongst our little friend group. Okay, who's going to go? Are we going to go to this? Are we not going to go to this? This was on the Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Also happening that Friday night was the Star Wars Underworld podcast's Bad Batch discussion. So I said, I'm going to pass on karaoke. I'm not going to pay the extra $10 to go and listen to other people sing. I got to go home and prep for the podcast. And so if you'll notice in all of Matthew's stories, there's a missing character, and that is me, because I took myself out of the story. And as I'm at home rewatching the Bad Batch episode, Pabu, I start getting messages from Kareem saying, Matt is singing. He's on stage. He's singing now. He's singing with Emily. I'm filming video. You got to see this. I'm like, what am I missing? What did I do? Because I sort of thought like, okay, I know the Bad Batch episode. This thing is supposed to end about an hour before we're going to record. So I could go to this and like race home and be home just in time for the show. And then I thought, nah, I'll go home and do like proper prep and be ready for the show. And I missed this legendary moment. So Matthew, you went up, you sang The Saga Begins by Weird Al.
Yeah.
And then Kareem had his own singing ticket. He chickened out. He said, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. So he gave it to you.
Yeah.
And you went up there again. And what did you sing for song number 2?
Africa by Toto, of course. the classic karaoke staple. Now here's another funny thing. So halfway through the show, there was this whole thing. I don't know. Emily had this thing about how people mess up song lyrics and all that. And so she said her husband thinks there's like 100 million Martians can never do or something weird like that. So and she's like, what's the song about? So I'm holding on to this in my mind, and then think, okay, well, Kareem is going to. So obviously, an hour later, I get up there and it's like, so I'm going to explain the song to you. It's about a missionary in Africa. And then I proceed to sing the song this time because I think whether or not you paid the extra, she could do the duet if she wanted to because she's Emily Swallow. So she full on did the duet with me, and it was the last song. We kind of brought the house down. And it was. And I gotta say, so good.
I was gonna say, we have a clip.
I'm so ready for this.
We have
Holy
a clip.
Crap.
Yes.
Here it is. Matthew singing Africa by Toto, featuring Emily Swallow and other members of the Toronto Comic Con karaoke audience.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Hoping to find some old forgotten words and reach a melody.
Yeah, you guys got the right idea.
Yeah. Hurry, boy, it's waiting there for you. There's nothing that I haven't had or I bless the rains down in Africa. Gonna take some time to do the things
I gotta tell you guys.
Give it up for Matthew and Emily and the crowd at Toronto Comic Con.
Legendary.
I gotta say, so like, but that the earlier song, like, that's the thing. I can say I sang a Star Wars song in front of a Star Wars actor at a con. Like it I kid you not, it touched the magic of Celebration, which is a very rare moment. And Dom, you're gonna get to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not missing it again. So this is the thing. For the longest time, I had real bad fear of missing out, real bad FOMO. And I thought that missing the Kenobi premiere at Celebration had gotten me over it. And so I was like, this is me being mature and making like the smart, responsible decision to go home and be like ready to do a good show for all the people all over the world that listen to it. And then I just getting these messages that there's Matthew singing with the Armorer, just getting up there, is rocking out first to Weird Al, then to Toto. I'm like, and it's just reignited all of it. I'm not missing anything ever again.
Nope.
That sounds good. We will cancel any show from now on if there's any chance that Matthew is on a stage with a mic. Oh my god!
Small points on the earth.
Yeah. It's incredible. Incredible. Toronto Comic Con is a lovely time. Here's another picture of Matthew and Emily for everyone who's watching.
So good.
So I rewatched the episode today, and then I'm seeing her. I'm like, I touched that person. I gave that person a side hug. It's like,
That's so good.
That was kind of
a side hug. Let's just let's reiterate that. That's what we're going on here. Terrific stuff. But yeah, great time at Toronto Comic Con. There was loads of good Star Wars cosplay, like Frog Lady. There was a Frog Lady. Terrific Frog Lady.
That's homemade. That is a homemade costume.
It's pretty damn good, to be honest.
It's really good.
That's great. Like the ratio of everything. That's great.
Yeah. Also, Liam Neeson in his behind the scenes in Tunisia. That dude dressed as that.
It's amazing.
And we had an evil chopper rolling around for all of you Rebels fans out there.
What? The size of Matthew kneeling is the size of Chopper.
Yeah.
That's an incredible ratio. Wow. Wow. I don't know why that's shocking. That's a rub it into you, Matthew.
Well, walking next to Dom, who, walks faster than some people drive. So
unnecessary. What a random roast.
The height difference.
I guess so. The legs span.
Also true.
Well, Matt, before Celebration last year, Matthew and I went to Disneyland and we did like a full day. Like I when I do Disneyland, I go from opening till close. And I said to Matthew, you don't have to do that. You can just go for as long as you want to. And you're like, credit to you. You're like, no, I'm in. Like, let's go for it. Let's go for it the whole day. I think I nearly killed you. It just in the amount of walking and go that happened that day. And it all culminated at the end of the day where I joined the waiting list to get into Oga's Cantina. And I got the message saying you can come in the next 15 minutes while we were in line for the Millennium Falcon ride. So I had to leave the line, run over to the cantina, and we go in and they say, yeah, okay, you can go stand by the bar. And in my head, I'm like, this is fantastic. I've sat in a booth already. I've stood at one of the high tables. The only thing I haven't done in here is stand at the bar. I'm like, this is fantastic. And I said that to Matthew, and Matthew said, I'm going to kill you. My legs are hurting. I need to sit down somewhere. Yes. What? This isn't exciting.
That's so good.
To be fair, I don't regret it now, but when we got back to the hotel room, I could not stand.
That's a special kind of leg aching when you get to at a Disney. Like that's next level.
That's so good.
Special. One other thing from Toronto Comic Con, for everybody who listens to Ion Canon, you've already heard this, you've already seen this, but Matthew, you did an interview with a Star Wars comics artist, Mike Del Mundo, and he did this on the convention floor. And we've actually got a little teaser, a little clip for everybody to take a listen to. Do you want to set this up a little bit more, or do we want to just let the words speak for themselves?
Yeah, well, I'll give a bit of context, and then I'll add a bit more at the end. So Mike Del Mundo, he does a lot of internal art for a lot of comics, but he's most well known in Star Wars for his covers, his variant covers. And you'll hear me talk specifically about two variant covers of the two Darth Vader runs, the 2015 Kieran Gillen run. So his variant of number 1 there, and then the variant of number 2 of Charles Soule's 2017 run. And then I'll add a bit more at the end.
All right, take a listen to this from Toronto Comic Con.
The thing that caught my eye at first was the 2015 Vader with the grill with the little Anakin in there. And then, of course, you have the Charles Soule, I believe that's you, with the Vader and the Clone Troopers. Yeah, those two variants. can you speak to me? I think I've asked you this before a few years back, but the relationship between having the iconic original trilogy villain with a very prequelist milieu. I mean, you've got the Clone Troopers, you got Little Annie. Talk about the connection between Vader and Anakin. I know it's a bit deeper question as a character.
It's a really cool connection, and actually personally, because like I didn't technically grow up watching the first 3 Star Wars. I was a youngin, so yeah, I did watch them as a kid. But when Phantom Menace came out, that's me, like, when I could really take in the movie. So it's an important movie to me too, and to be able to marry those two together was awesome. And it worked out so well. It's kind of cool to be able to bridge the first 3 movies with the next 3.
There it is. You can hear the full. You can hear the full interview on the Ion Cannon feed. It's released as a Tractor Beam episode.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. So just a bit of context there. This is his upcoming direct edition cover for number 3 of Black, White, Red. Oh, sorry. I'm laughing so hard at my own karaoke. There we go. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Yeah. So the first chunk of the interview is looking at this direct edition cover. So this comes out in June, and so this you'll see if you go to local comic book shops, you'll see this I think June 24th or around there. So really cool. Yeah, the Vader making an Imperial cog with some rocks. So
there it is. There it is. Yeah. So check out the full interview, and stay tuned to the next Toronto Comic Con or next Fan Expo or next wherever Emily Swallow shows up. And go attend the karaoke if she does it again. And who knows, maybe Matthew will make a surprise appearance there.
She's in Australia next. That's where she's coming.
Hannah,
she's coming in April. So I'm going to see her. I'm like, okay, we're doing it. We're doing karaoke. Thank you for the preface.
You've got to just pick your song ahead of time. You got to make sure you can't do Toto and you can't do Weird Al. You got to come up with something else.
I feel like a woman, Shania Twain. That's my choice already.
Oh, now there we go.
I feel like it's a very Armorer song as well.
I think so. All right. Hey, Chris, you know what we haven't done yet?
What?
Plugs. Let's do some plugs.
Yeah, I was wondering when you were gonna
27 minutes
throw to that.
Show. That's great.
Get this shirt at cultureslate.com/store. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can super chat. You can become a channel member. You can subscribe and review on your favorite podcast apps. You can join our Discord, which Matthew already plugged, especially the great part where he talked about muting our Discord.
Only for a day, only till I watch.
Join the Discord so you can mute it.
Join the Discord
there's game
on
nights
Thursdays.
when you aren't muting it.
Fortnite tomorrow night.
Happen. That's right. And also check out all the other shows on our network, including The Right Side, Ion Cannon, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy.
So real quick, Matthew Hardy in the chat, Hannah has a suggestion for you for your karaoke song. He thinks you should go with the classic Men at Work song, Down Under.
I'm from a land down under.
No.
Give me a Vegemite sandwich. Yeah,
I guess I should do American Idiot.
There you go.
I would have thought that song would be considered racist in Australia or something.
No, I'm trying to start a petition that should be our national anthem.
Would it be funny?
I thought it
if
was
you
your
guys
national
did,
anthem.
Wait, it's not.
Like, would it be funny if you guys did Africa and just be like, yeah, I know this guy.
It's just bring up the story. Yeah,
just like, hey, remember the random
talk about the missionary or whatever. You know?
Just hey, Emily, do you remember that chopper-sized Canadian that you met? That sung Africa Batoto. I know that guy.
Incredible. Oh my god.
I give you my permission. There you go.
Oh my goodness. All righty. Let's get into it. Let's finally talk about The Mandalorian, the episode we are here to discuss. Only 30 minutes into the show. We are, of course, talking about season 3, episode 4, chapter 20, The Foundling, written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and directed by Carl Weathers, aka Grief Karga. who does not actually appear in the episode. I was
Wild.
sort of surprised. I thought for sure he
He
would.
was behind the camera.
I thought for sure he'd put himself in the show just for a moment. But let's
I don't know
go-
if you noticed this, but most directors aren't in the movie. They're behind the camera the whole time. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm just imagining that, behind the camera and action. Runs
he's-
in front of the camera.
I've always
Mondo.
Did
Like,
was
geez,
George
how would he do
Lucas
that?
yelling action with all like the blue paint on his face when he was Garrett Papanoida?
Probably.
Well, so Taika Waititi, future hopefully Star Wars director, he's often in his own movies, including a movie where he played Hitler, and so he was directing scenes in full Hitler makeup.
Oh my gosh.
And so he's saying, yeah, do this way,
Jeez.
do that way, and not just being a director, but also a dictator. Excellent stuff.
As
There
you
you
do.
go.
All right, let's go around the table, give some initial impressions of the Foundling. And Ben, not going to throw it to you first.
I knew it.
Hannah, we're going to
Yes.
you. Give us your initial impressions and however much of your thoughts you want to give.
Yes.
Yeah. So take it away.
Okay. Well, because yes, I'm only going to stay for this quick portion here, so I'll get straight to the meat of the episode, which was, of course, the big reveal, which was I'm just so overwhelmingly happy about. There's been a lot of discussion for many months now about who could be coming through that door, and I really liked how that actual initial moment of those doors opening, it was just the 501st, and they were just flooding those Jedi, and because at that moment we all went, oh, this is the thing, and then the doors opened and we're like, but that's not who saved. Like, we don't know yet. So I like how there was just that 30 seconds more of who is it. Great action sequence, and then of course the reveal of what's his Kelleran Beck. Kelleran Beck. There we go. Just fantastic choice. I think it's so whimsical that it's this non-canon Jedi host of a kids show. It's just brilliant. That's just so whimsical and ridiculous that I really, really love it. And I think a great character choice, and I think he could be a really cool character if we got more stuff on him, more info on him. So yeah, stoked on that. And just that whole sequence was just spine tingling to me. I'm sure like you guys will go into it at depth, but there's something about the coloring, the types of angles and the types of shots we got in that. It just felt like a remastered, deleted scene straight out of Revenge of the Sith. It was just beautiful. And I want a whole show, prequel era show from that. Even from the previous episodes where we've seen Coruscant as well. I was like, yeah, we need a prequel era Coruscant show. So very happy with that. And then either side, the lovely little Mando adventure we went on was really fun, and I think it showed a lot of dynamic between Bo and Paz Vizsla and Din, and how that's all working out and how that's unfolding, which I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying this Mando centric focus that we're going on in this season. That we've done all the exploring, we've done planet to planet, episode to episode, fast pace of season 1 and 2. And I'm actually really enjoying that of season 3, that we're just focusing on, we want to get to Mandalore and we want to unify these Mandalorians. That's the key direction and purpose of season 3, which I really enjoy. That's my overall view. I really enjoyed this episode.
Nice. What's your score out of 10 before you leave us?
I'm gonna score this a 9.5 out of 10.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
There you go.
This is gonna be like the one episode like Dominic doesn't like.
I was just gonna say, Hannah. You know our scores for the last Bad Batch episode we reviewed?
Yeah. Is it like,
I think we're flipping. I think we're reversing them.
No way. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's so good.
Yeah.
But,
we'll get into why in a little bit, and then maybe we'll have to have a revisiting of this episode once the season is done. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, Hannah.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you for the Bad Batch, and we'll see you on the race side.
I'll catch you then. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right, Ben, you're up. Let's go. You got
finally.
You got a reprieve for a week from having to go first. So
And finally I can talk. Definitely closer to Hannah's camp here. I really did enjoy this episode. It's hard to pull my head out of the whole hype around Kelleran Beck, which is just consumed me these past couple days. Totally shocked. Didn't see it coming at all. Like 100%. And like just the perfect person to do that. Like for like they could have done so many other people. It could have been like, oh, it's Kia D Mundi, and he's got it blasted that he looks like Swiss cheese, but all of his vital organs were in his giant head, so he's not survived. So there he is, and he's rescuing Grogu, and he somehow got to Coruscant 5 minutes after the like that could have happened, but it didn't. Yeah. We got a just. Not only this great character, which I think was developed for that show, but also just this tremendous, like, welcoming back for Ahmed Best, which I think he just totally deserved. And also beyond that, like, I really like the episode in general. Like, it's not the craziest episode. I think outside of that scene, I wasn't super enthused about the whole, like, oh, we're going to rescue this kid from giant pterodactyl nest. Like, but it was some pretty cool visuals. I do have some qualms about some of the visuals on Coruscant. I feel like there's some less than perfect effects in there. But then there's some other shots of like on that planet that are like stellar. So it's kind of all over the place. But overall, I really, really did enjoy this episode a lot.
Okay, nice. Chris, you've been quiet for a while. We'll go to you next.
All right. So I needed a prop to illustrate how I feel about this episode.
What kind of Oreo is it?
Let me introduce you to the Mega Stuff Oreo. That's right.
We're missing an F.
But double stuffed is just not enough. This describes this episode. Let me show you this bad boy here. So, the way that I felt about the beginning and the end of this episode with all the cool stuff with the Mandalorians, there was like the very nice cookie parts. But the middle part with Grogu and his origin story, that is how I feel about it.
Looks good.
So for those of you who are not watching our show, the Mega Stuff Oreo has probably 2 or 3 times the stuffing.
I was gonna say that looks like 3 times as much as a classic Oreo.
That is pretty much everything that
you could put a classic Oreo where the filling is, like in that Oreo.
It's the whole the filling is the size of a regular Oreo, like with the cookie parts and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
but
amazing.
So obviously, like I still like the cookie part. Like the Mando stuff was nice as one likes chocolate cookies. But that stuffing in the middle with Grogu and everything that Hannah said, I completely agree with. That was so cool to see that. And we've been wondering, they've been kind of like leading up to this scene for so long. Like we've been waiting for like the full story of what happened for ever since season 1 when Grogu first appeared. And it's amazing that we finally got to it. So this was a really enjoyable episode because you have some pretty cool action sequences with the Mandos, some more like culture and lore and world building with them, some interesting stuff with Bo-Katan. Is she really buying into things or not? Is she just playing along? A lot of interesting conversation to be had there. But then this really cool flashback as well. And tying together, last thing I'll say is I thought it was very interesting how they tied together the present Coruscant with the past Coruscant stuff. Because last week we had the present Coruscant with Dr. Pershing, and now we have the past Coruscant during Order 66. So I thought that was really cool. And that then, of course, ties into the scenes that we saw in Kenobi as well, which is cool. So all these things are kind of fitting into each other in a really interesting way. And I'm all for it. So cool episode. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Matthew, what about you? What's your thoughts on this one?
First of all, I'll say really interesting choice. I'm going to think more about why specifically the mountain peak is the one thing that gets repeated. I don't quite know, but I'll muse on that. I thought it was overall a very, very solid, tight half an hour of television. Interestingly, my mind focuses more on the Mando. Like that's the main plot line of rescuing the kid. And well, first of all, the dart fight, and then rescuing the kid, and then all the adventures with the dinosaur. I wouldn't say I was utterly riveted by the whole episode, but it was again a fun, enjoyable one. The bit with Grogu, I mean, I loved it. Like I said at the top, the first go around, it wasn't. I just was thinking about how I had spoiled, so that was going through my mind. But yeah, I mean, this is the Coruscant Clam era. I'm loving all this being my favorite planet in Star Wars. Not the one I want to live on, but my favorite story-wise planet. Yeah, that to me is I mean, my impression of all that was that's the backstory, that's the side story. And so I'd flip your Oreo, Chris. I'd say the meat, the filling is the Mando stuff, because that's what yes, there we go. That's what connects with everything going forward. And I appreciate it, enjoyed it. Really, yeah, like really interesting questions about Bo-Katan taking more seriously these traditions and this lore, and what does it mean for a community that has some weird rules but really looks out for each other and really defends each other and risks everything for each other.
Nice. Yeah. I think what I'm realizing, having heard all of you guys talk about this episode, and this is, I don't have a prop for this, and that'll become evident why in just a moment. But for me, I think this episode is a peanut butter Oreo, where lots of people like it. Lots of people really, really like it. But when I eat it, it gives me a horrible stomach cramp and makes me vomit several times and lie on the floor for hours and hours on end in pain.
Would you like me to get you something for that?
I mean, yeah, right. I got to the end of this episode the first time I watched it, and this is the thought that entered my mind. This is the first bad episode of The Mandalorian.
Oh, wow.
Well, and I won't give away my score, although I alluded to it earlier. But if I were to break it down, I would give the Coruscant stuff an 8 out of 10. Solid, liked it, good. No real issues. I would give everything else a 2 out of 10.
Wow.
I would really didn't like it. It's not even just the cookie. It'd be like it just did not work for me. There's bits and pieces in there that I'll get into that I thought were good, decent moments. But as soon as the dragon flew into the scene and picked up the kid, I was like, I'm not gonna like this episode. And I have that thought, but then I want to be proven wrong by the episode. I had that thought about the Purrgil episode of Rebels, and I look back on that episode very fondly, and I liked it a lot at the time. But I really did not like this episode, and I did not like the Mandalorian storyline. I did not like all the stuff with the dragon. If Jon Favreau were here, I would say to him, John, there's more to Star Wars than creature attacks, because that's all this season has been, except last week. And that's why part of the reason I liked last week so much, it was because it was a different kind of storyline than what we've been getting throughout this season. So I was really disappointed in that portion of the episode. The Coruscant stuff kind of made up for it, but it wasn't enough to save this episode. So yeah, I was let down. I was disappointed. Now that being said, we're 20 episodes. This is episode 20. This is chapter 20. One stinker out of 20, that's fine. I'll take it. You guys know I love sports. I'm a big sports fan. The Boston Bruins are the best team in the NHL this year, the best team in the National Hockey League. They lost a couple of months ago. They lost a game to the Chicago Blackhawks, who are one of the worst teams in the league. That doesn't mean the Bruins are terrible and that people should think the Bruins are a bad team. No, they're still on a historic pace. They're still one of the best. But they lost a game to a bad team. They had to play a bad game. That's how it goes. And as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I'm very used to a team that's very good losing games they should win. So I know how to bounce back from this really easily. So I'm ready to roll into next week with open arms and open hearts and all that stuff. I'm not holding this episode as like, oh, they need to win me back or anything, but I was very like I said, I thought this was a bad episode. It did not work for me in a lot of places, and we'll get into that. But we'll kind of go through. We'll go kind of chronologically, I think, for this week. I think that's the best way to tackle this episode. And we begin back on Ben. Perhaps this is you can dip into the corner here for a second. Do we know the name of this planet that they're on?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I don't believe it's been named.
So we're on the planet not that I know of, and the Mandalorians are all training. And Din Djarin decides that Grogu's had enough time playing with the rock crabs, which finally explains that piece of concept art that they released a couple months ago. And we were like, what is going on here? And puts him into a training duel with who we eventually learn is Paz Vizsla's son, aka Jimmy Kimmel's nephew. And they basically have a paintball fight. Ben, what'd you think of Din sort of putting Grogu in this situation and the way the sequence played out?
Well, I like that. I love the agency that Grogu's been given this season so far. Because I was kind of in agreement of like, okay, they've brought him back. What are they going to do with him? This season, you watch the first episode, it's like, why is he even here? He's there to look cute. I love the no squeezy scene, but like, other than that, he really didn't do much. And then you get to episode 2, it's like, oh yeah, he's doing a lot. And last episode, he really didn't do much. He didn't really have much to do, have much of a chance to do anything. But this episode kind of brought that back, and I think it was great to see him know that, like, he can fight. He can, as they say, open up a can of whoop ass and do things on his own. He doesn't need Dad to protect him anymore necessarily. And I love that he can stand his own. Yeah, and people underestimate him, like, he's too small, whatever else. And also just the whole idea of, I've heard people talking about, when's he gonna get a mask? Which I'm like, don't you dare put a mask on that cute little face. How dare you even mention that?
What will happen to his ears?
I'm assuming just little slits that just the ears pop out. Like Yoda in that deleted scene from A Phantom Menace where he's got the cloak on,
right,
but the ears pop out. But I also like Din's explanation of just like, yeah, he can't wear a helmet because he can't speak yet. He can't he can't say the creed, which I think also, considering last episode where he seemingly is trying to say this is the way in that one moment, I think we're gearing up for a first word. I think that's where this is going.
Mando.
I'm not sure about this season, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah. I think sorry, I got lost in what could Grogu's first word be. Mando. Ship. Droid. Beskar.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I will say this little sequence with the paintball scene. This is one of the moments in the episode that I did like. And I liked that we're sort of seeing, this is why Grogu went to Luke Skywalker. This is why they had to do that part of the plot line. We can talk about whether they rushed bringing him back and all that sort of stuff, but Grogu of season 2 isn't winning this paintball fight with Kid Vizsla. He's not winning it. So he's got to go and train with Luke for a bit and to actually learn how to hone some of his powers. And now he's got sort of basic Jedi training. He's going to get some basic Mandalorian training and sort of merge the two together. But we also, and Chris, I'll sort of throw this to you. We also see Bo-Katan kind of stepping in and Grogu doesn't now just have one adopted parent. It kind of seems like he's got 2.
You thought your daddy was the only Mando. Yeah, she's like, I see that cute little baby. I want that cute little baby too. Also, that cute little baby has force powers. Might be able to help me lead my empire. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. A lot. Yeah, I really like how this season has kind of almost been more about Bo-Katan than it's been about the Mandalorian and Din. Like, I feel like we haven't really learned that much more about Din, and we really haven't learned that much more about Grogu. We've just seen him kind of progress in his abilities, and we've seen more of what he can do, and we've seen him presented with some challenges that he's had to overcome. But as like a character study, I think that this season's been more focused on the development of Bo-Katan, which makes sense considering where things were kind of general thrust of things at the end of last season was definitely moving the direction of developing her into a big piece of the show. And I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic that they've chosen to make her such a big part. I mean, I feel like her and Din are kind of almost like co-leads of the show at this point. And I think that's great because her character is so incredibly interesting, because it's just like we don't know where she's gonna go. We don't really know what her real like motivations are and like what decisions she's going to make. And if we don't know, like, is she trying to get close to Grogu because she genuinely cares about Grogu, or is she trying to use Grogu? We don't really know, and I don't think we're going to find out until some like really intense situations happen and further in the season, or maybe even in future seasons and shows. So I think it's a really interesting foundation they're laying with this relationship between those two characters. Like I think there's a lot of ways it could go, and it's very suspenseful, and there's a lot of room for development and different directions. So this is very smart foundational writing from where you can do a lot of stuff. So I'm really entertained by it. I think it's great.
Yeah. One of the most telling things in the first episode of this season is the credits. You know, for the longest time, you know, for the first 2 seasons, it was starring Pedro Pascal and then co-starring everybody else. And this season, it's starring Pedro Pascal, Katie Sackhoff, and then co-starring everybody else. So she is basically the co-lead at this point. She's second on the call sheet. She's there for every episode. And honestly, I mean, she's probably on set more than Pedro is, because he's fighting zombies in Alberta. But Matthew, let's get your take on this scene and the training moment.
I mean, at first it was like, oh, he's putting this kid in this combat thing. That's gonna, going back to the question with Luke, why is Luke giving this kid this choice? And shout out to Din in the chat for helping me understand that better. But like Chris, you said, there's a lot of things going on. One of the things going on in the background of this whole show is this negotiation between, especially with Bo-Katan and her relationship with Mandalorian lore and history and heritage, everything to do with the Mythosaur. Also, a big part of Mandalorian history and heritage is the conflict with the Jedi. And of course, Bo-Katan is the one there who's experienced the most in terms of Jedi, especially with Ahsoka. But with Anakin and Obi-Wan as well, and of course the Ezra and Kanan and everything she experienced there. But what I found fascinating with Grogu is, first, he hesitates to use his Force powers. He's I don't know if this is appropriate. I don't know if this is right. I'm wondering. I mean, it's hard to communicate what his motivations are in there, but Din Djarin has to go in and say, "It's okay, kid. I know what you can do. You can actually combine these two ancient feuding traditions, and because the past can inform, but it doesn't have to dictate." And that's going to be that's going to be a big theme, I think, going forward in the series, is for especially for Bo-Katan. I mean, her ability to engage this community that she is now seemingly a part of, and we'll get to this with the end, but one that she leads this war party and has all these traditions that provide structure and meaning with these very weird nonsensical rules. What I am wondering in terms of her motivation with Grogu and with everybody is that going to change? Is she starting off, like we saw a few episodes ago, depressed and lonely, and just because she's had to look out for herself and now everyone's gone, is that can actually open her up to being a more communitarian leader, a more egalitarian leader, one that can partner with Din or even the Armor or whoever, a better leader overall.
Yeah, and that's something that's sort of that is the through line of this episode is, and it sort of started last week, is Bo-Katan kind of having to or finding something that I think she was missing amongst the Children of the Watch. And that's the thing about the Children of the Watch, is they're this weird cult. Like, we all acknowledge they're a bunch of weirdos. They have they do strange things. They won't eat together. They keep their helmets on all the time. Like, they just have all these odd traditions that don't really make sense. but there's a real strong sense of community, and that is something that you get from this episode. They all go out to save the kid. There's this sort of war party, hunting party, whatever you want to call it, to go out and try and rescue this child. They seem to have each other's backs. They're training together. They want to make each other better. There's something good there. There's something meaningful there. And I think Bo was missing that. We start the season with her sitting by herself in an empty throne room. That's sort of the opposite of a community leader. She's lost her community, and now she's finding it again. And the challenge for her and Din Djarin most likely as well is to sort of have to, at some point, they're going to have to confront the strangeness of this cult. At some point, they're going to have to go, okay, what's going on here? And you guys say this is the way a lot of the time, but not everything can be the way. What is the meaning behind those words? And that's something I talked about a little bit with the second episode. When Din said this is the way to her about her father, about what she was talking about, all the things he was for the Mandalorian people. That is the way. Caring about others, sacrificing yourself for others and trying to, uplift your community. That is the way. Like that, I think that's the true meaning behind
there is another way.
Behind this is the way. Yeah, or there is another way, but not this is the way is not you can never take off your helmet. That's just silliness. That's that's Pedro Pascal is busy this week, so we can't come up with a reason why he's not there. So I think I think that's sort of, as I've said before, I think that's sort of the road we're heading towards. But ultimately, Bo-Katan is, I think, realizing that, these traditions, they do bind people together, and there's pretty powerful stuff. That's a pretty powerful thing that's not to be overlooked when she's trying to rally and unite the Mandalorian people behind a common cause to go, get their homeworld back. So the episode's going great. Starts off, love it. Mandalorian's training. Get a little paintball game between Grogu and Jimmy Kimmel's nephew. Great, loving it. Terrific. Then that stupid dragon comes over the hill and kidnaps Paz.
This is the worst planet. Get off this
Why
planet,
are they living on this?
you idiots. Why are you on this planet? Everything here tries to kill you.
And so they chase down the dragon. They try to chase down the dragon on their jetpacks. Some cool shots in there. Nice visuals. Bo-Katan jumps in her ship and chases it down. I like that the jetpacks, we saw that there's a limitation there. They run out of fuel. They can't get all the way. And so they have to come up with a new strategy. And they wind up deciding, okay, we'll fly to the base of the mountain and then we'll climb up. Okay, great. The party goes off. Grogu stays behind. The armorer starts hitting the forge of inevitable flashbacks, and we are taken back to Grogu's time on Coruscant, and we're back in Order 66 once again. Chris, we'll start with you. What did you think of the Order 66 sequence as a whole, and the first reveal, the Kelleran Beck reveal that we got?
Yeah, I thought that was really amazing. Like I said off the top, we've been waiting to see this moment for, almost 3 seasons now. So it's so cool that we finally got to see it. And I think having Ahmed Best be the actor who plays this character was a really cool to bring in someone who, we know him very well in Star Wars, but we don't know his face in Star Wars. So having his face in Star Wars in universe, he's out of universe. He does have that one show that I've never watched. Has that show come out?
It has. Yes, they're all on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel. I watched.
That's where it is.
I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes. It's fun. It's fun, but I would love to be on it. I want to do the obstacle course more than I want to watch and sit around watching other people do it.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool that Abed now, is the voice of a very iconic character in Jar Jar Binks. And then out of universe, he's the host of that show. And then in universe, he now is a character as well, where you see his face. I think that's really cool that he has all those different things. It shows that the range that he has as a person to be able to host something, to be able to voice act, and to be able to live action act all the, on all different projects. So that's really really fantastic. And obviously, like, there's the whole thing about how a lot of adults, for some reason, were like personally offended by his character. Like, I don't understand. I didn't know about this. See, I was a kid who's I didn't, I grew up kind of right before the internet became a thing, right before social media became a thing. So I only knew what people would just say on the street, so to speak.
Right.
And so I spent the first few years of the prequel era thinking that, Jar Jar was just like a comedic character in Star Wars, like, C-3PO was in the original trilogy, and that he just, had a role to play in those movies, and especially the Phantom Menace. And I thought it was funny. I mean, the scene where, Jar Jar gets his tongue zapped by the pod racer.
Yeah.
I used to laugh so hard at that as a kid. It was one of my favorite parts of that movie. So I love that stuff, and it makes sense because it was
My tongue.
yeah, my tongue is fucked. My tongue is fucked. Amazing.
Keep going, guys. Keep going.
So yeah,
And part of me was a
That's-
little bit worried that Anakin was going to turn on the pod at that point. We were
Yeah.
worried a
Oh my
lot.
No,
gosh.
no, I think we just figured out what Grogu's first word's gonna be. He's gonna be my tongue.
You learn from the best. So yeah, so it's like I didn't really. So that's those are my thoughts on it as like an 8-year-old or so, and 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and then I remember one time I was like hanging out with one of my friends who was like a few years older than me when I was a kid, and he was like, yeah, I really like the prequels, and they're like cool, but like that Jar Jar character, I hate him. He annoys the heck out of me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's cool, whatever. We all like different things, So I didn't have much reaction to it. And then I got on the internet and I started listening to like adults talk about Star Wars for the first time. And then I realized, like,
First mistake.
I realized, like, wait a minute. George Lucas was like driven out of cinema by adults who hate Jar Jar Binks. Like, what is going on? Like, what happened? I was so confused. And then, we keep hearing more and more and more, like, like the bullying that happened to Jake Lloyd, how Natalie Portman's career was like almost ruined for a little bit, like all this terrible stuff. And then finally, we had some of those exposés come out, a few years ago about how it like affected like Ahmed Best's mental health and all that stuff. And that was just so terrible. And so I love it now when we've kind of come full circle. And one of the things that you notice is that like love lasts longer than hate. Like hate is always present.
Yeah.
People giving negative energy to things. It's always happening, but there's always something new that they're casting their ire on, and it's always moving around. Whereas the people who love things, they just love things and it stays for a while. And so like that's why, when we have people like Hayden Christensen coming out on stage at Star Wars Celebration, it's like the loudest applause that you've ever heard, because it's just people who love it, and all that kind of hate that happened surrounding, those movies has subsided to a great degree, and it's been put on something else now, which is still unfortunate, but it has. And so same thing with Ahmed Best, you have all that love that's still there with people's nostalgia from their childhoods, and the character that he played that I loved and a lot of people loved. So having him come back, I would have loved to see Jar Jar again too, but also having him come back in any capacity as well, playing another character, is also really, really awesome. And I love that. So just as much as I love them bringing back Hayden Christensen for the Kenobi show, I have the same feelings about bringing Ahmed Best back in any capacity for Mandalorian. I think that's really cool, and really cool that a new audience gets to see the talent that he has in even a limited capacity, and hopefully we get more from this. I think everybody here would love to see more of that character. So very positive feelings for me about this, very positive feelings from a lot of people. I think it was a really great idea, and I think it serves so many purposes both in and out of universe. It answers a question we had: how did Grogu get out of the temple? What happened? Who saved him? And then it also brings back a really cool actor who's always been kind of a great member of the community, and gives them some more platform to shine on. So amazing stuff. Love it.
Yeah. And can I just say really quick, a lot of people have been calling this Ahmed Best's redemption. And I think all of these people are saying this in good faith. I don't think they're meaning this well. But this is not a redemption at all. This is something that's been deserved to him for a very long time. This isn't Ahmed Best didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. He did a performance that people didn't like. Something really, really bad was done to him. And we need to recognize that. Almost 25 years later, recognize the fact of like how that was a dark time in pop culture, in Star Wars fandom. What happened to him was awful. And I hate the idea of like, oh, it's a redemption. No, he didn't do anything wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with Jar Jar. Y'all just didn't like it.
Yeah.
And y'all need to get over it. And also to people that think that they have to, well, I didn't really like Jar Jar. No one gives a crap about your ice cold Jar Jar takes 20 years later, okay? Zip it. You've had your chance.
Yeah. You know, people will sometimes talk about doing right by a character. This is doing right by an actor. And, you know, that ultimately that matters more because Jar Jar Binks, I hate to break it to everybody, is fictional. He doesn't really exist.
He's standing right there, Don.
Yeah. Matthew just brought out a massive Jar Jar toy and put it in the background.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Jar Jar's a character in Star Wars. So you know whether he's done right by or not is sort of immaterial. Ahmed Best is a real person in the real world, and doing right by Ahmed Best is what's more important. And to not just give him another role, but give him another role that is his face, where now people will see him and they won't go, don't I remember that guy from something like 25 years ago? What's going on here? They'll see him and go, that's the Jedi that saved Grogu. That's the guy that saved Grogu. Like that's what people will say when they see Ahmed Best now. They won't go, there's the guy I made the character that I hate. They'll be like, this guy's a legend. He saved Baby Yoda. So doing right by Ahmed Best and well deserved, and great to see him in the show. Great robes, great lightsaber, looking good.
Everything about
looking
it.
snazzy.
I love that he's so good. Like he's so good at lightsaber combat. He can just easily pick up 2 lightsabers, and like that makes sense. He's a teacher. He's a lightsaber teacher. Of course, he's very good at lightsaber combat.
Yeah, it was cool. Matthew, another character that we see on Coruscant that I know is very important to you is the Coruscant Guard clone troopers. We see a couple of them.
Wait, do I like those? Do I know about those?
For those of you, again, I'll tell another story from Celebration. Matthew bought and shoved into his suitcase
I'm grabbing it right
like
now.
3 foot tall
It's happening right now, guys.
Coruscant Guard stormtrooper. I remember Din and I saw him on the last
my
day. Look at
God,
this thing.
those-
And we were like, what? How are you
Never
going to get
forget
that home?
Oh,
It's incredible. So you saw, but you got your guys. You got your guys back on screen. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw those characters back on screen. Yeah. What'd you think of the whole like chase sequence there with Keller and Beck fleeing the Jedi Temple?
Well, first of all, the action figure you convinced me not to buy at Comic-Con, was it? Of course, I'm going. I showed you. Again, really, really exciting, really riveting sequence. But one that the second time around watching it, as gripping as any kind of Order 66 sequence is. I mean, we're talking about. Like I showed you guys my Revenge of the Sith poster. What was it? Here it might have been the pre-show, giving the tour here. Yeah, the depth of tragedy and anxiety that moment holds for the whole galaxy. We're feeling it for Grogu. We're feeling it for Kelleran. Loving. I'll say everything. Echo everything you guys said about Ahmed Best and how it's just bringing him back to the limelight as he always deserved. And then again, like Hannah was saying, to see Coruscant in all its glory and all its splendor as a planet that really matters to the galaxy. I mean, we kind of forget it's the honking capital of the place. It is Washington D.C. and New York City and Ottawa and Toronto, if you want to say that. There we go. and London and Paris and all of these places all at once. It's the site of the greatest tragedy in the galaxy, and we see that snippet of it, and we see it again through Grogu's eyes. And the thing I always want to come back to is, okay, so what does this mean for the character sitting in next to the forge, next to the armor, reliving this moment? Because every time a character goes through this forge, and we'll see it again with Bo-Katan, when Din did before, it's reliving your worst moment. Which, by the way, and just a bit of an aside, it's also fascinating to note that for both Din and Grogu, their great traumatic rescue happens near the end of the Clone Wars, and maybe there's just a neat poetic parallel there.
Oh wow!
Again, I'll have to think more about what that might mean, but it's always a moment of transformation. It's always a moment of, this is this horrible thing that happened to me. How am I going to incorporate it as my personal armor as I go forward? Not necessarily for violent attack, but Mandalorians, they can, but for wisdom and integrity and agency in as this kid, this foundling, having this second piece of Beskar placed on him. And that first word, I don't know about if that's as consequential as everything he's doing now. Maybe it'll seem consequential to us, but everything we continue to see him becoming this more active player in this cast, in this ensemble, in part when he learns to also tap into the Force. The thing, and that's the last bit. Maybe this is my answer why he hesitated and why he took so long with Ahsoka is, well, not maybe, we know why. We see stories of former Jedi who squelch their Force powers. Kanan's the one that comes to mind the most. As Obi-Wan Yoda hiding out.
Seer in Jedi Fallen Order.
Seer is a great example of characters, really saying, no, I can't. Is it safe? It's unsafe for me to tap into this, both because I could be really powerful and cause harm, but also, whether or not there's an empire. I remember it being an empire, even if it's 5 years ago. Also thinking, lastly, my last point, thinking around about everything with Pershing and Gideon, and how Grogu's Force powers may be part of why he's a target. And so him remembering this time when he's 30 years ago, and he's a 20-year-old baby, now he's a 50-year-old toddler. I think you got the timeline right. Can I embrace this part of myself that has actually caused me so much danger? Well, maybe I can, in this context of this Mandalorian covert, or especially the sigil of the Mudhorn, and the sign of the Mudhorn, that moment where he taps into it to save Din. And it's everything about it is so beautiful. That last point, even the fact that Kelleran has allies with Naboo. Naboo.
We'll get onto that.
And then I got my shock troopers. The shock troopers are so evil, though. That's the thing. I love red, guys.
I think it's a subconscious TFC thing. That's my my guess.
Canada Soccer TFC.
I think it's sort of interesting. You point out, the moment that Grogu sort of reawakens in the Force in that second episode is he's saving Din, and it's sort of like Din is getting Grogu to sort of confront his past and open himself up to the future and open himself up to in the galaxy. He was very closed off, and when we start with Din, he's also very closed off. He is very much a part of this cult, and over the first 2 seasons we saw him sort of open up to what the galaxy can be, and so that there's more ideas and more people and more places out there beyond just his Mandalorian covert and beyond just the Children of the Watch. And Din saw a little bit of where Grogu has come from, with meeting Ahsoka and meeting Luke, and going to the Jedi Temple, or the site of the future Jedi Temple, and all that stuff in Book of Boba and late season 2. So he's gotten a little bit of a taste of the Jedi world, and now Grogu's getting a sense of where Din came from, in that he gets to hang out with the children of the Watch a little bit. So it's kind of nice to see these two sort of helping each other through. And I'm holding out a little bit of hope. I'm holding out a little bit of hope that we'll see Grogu's two rescuers, his main two rescuers, meet on screen. I think maybe there's a little bit of hope for Kelleran Beck that he maybe got.
The fact that he didn't die on that platform,
bodes well.
Is hope.
Bodes well. Some hope there. But yeah, Kelleran, he flees the Jedi Temple with Grogu. There's a chase, pretty cool chase through the Coruscant streets. And leads up to a platform where a bunch of Naboo guards are waiting. And when I saw this the first time, I was kind of like, really? I felt like it was like, really? That's who's gonna save him? Like, are we shrinking the galaxy even more, where everybody knows everybody and the same people save everybody? And the one character from Naboo who I'm really interested in this time frame. Well, she's about to die from a broken heart. Like, she can't really play a role in this. That said, if Padme can have some, small element, a small role to play in the saving of Grogu, this was sort of what I realized on the second viewing, that there's a little bit something there, then I'm more okay with it. But I was a little bit like, that's. See, it feels like we're just reusing the old costumes and going for another, like, hey, look at these guys moment.
See, I don't think Padme can have anything to do with it, because I think at this point,
and that's what I'm getting at. That's what I was getting at.
She's pretty well, yeah, she's pretty well like clueless as to what's going on. Like, she's like at that moment, seemingly it's 3PO going like, Master Anakin returned to the Jedi Temple and all this kind of stuff. I think there's another culprit on the scene. I think the
Captain
obvious
Typho.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are already thinking this. I'm not stating anything bombshell here. I think he's working with Jar Jar.
Bibble.
It's outrageous.
Just stepping right on it.
Outrageous, unthinkable.
What happened at the Jedi Temple? How could it happen?
Who's the one guy we know? We don't know what he's doing for the entirety of Revenge of the Sith. Jar Jar. What's he doing? We don't know where he's been.
Could be Captain Panaka. Although he becomes an Imperial Moth, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't see him harboring Jedi. No.
Yeah. Who else? Who else on Naboo? Who else? You know who else it could be? Paulo. Paulo.
Oh.
He went on to become an artist, and then he saved Jedi. That's him. We'll see where this winds up. I don't think we're done with the Grogu Order 66 era flashbacks. I think this is something that's going to return.
I'm gonna go ahead and make this prediction right now. I want it to be on record. Jar Jar's gonna show up in the Mandalorian at some point.
That would be amazing. I mean, they got on my best right there. Right?
He is. Yeah, he's right there. Hey, Ahmed, get back in the suit. Get back in the motion capture suit. Ben, I know you're on a little bit of a time crunch.
Yeah,
so
unfortunately,
we're gonna do things a little bit out of order from how we normally do, because even though you're going to love us and leave us, we can't not do an.
I mean, we could.
No, we can't.
I mean, we could. I mean, it's up to you. We could totally just skip it tonight. We can totally, even though I make notes and everything.
It's literally not possible to not do another iconic classic edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. How much do you think it would cost me to get Emily Swallow to sing that with me at the next Comic-Con? Emily, I've got this song for you. It's called Ben's Connection Corner, and all you have to do is go, "How's it going, everybody?"
Oh God, I don't.
So you got the business card of the guy right there. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. All right, Ben, you're on the clock, your own clock this time.
Okay, I'll be quick because I need to go, and also apparently people don't like it when these things run 20 minutes. So here we go. So when they're planning to rescue the child, they're talking about how high the nest is, and Bo-Katan remarks that the nest is no higher than the peaks of Kiramoret. And apparently, this is actually a not real, but a established place on Mandalore.
No, it's real. It's in New Zealand.
It's a real. I can use that word again, not literally.
Yeah.
It's a established location that is actually on Mandalore. The peaks of Kiramoret, established way back in the Republic Commando novels from Karen Travis. Ooh. Some of you may remember that the speeders with sidecars, the whole bark speeders, they showed up previously in the Clone Wars episode Kidnapped. So this is not the first time we've seen a thing with a sidecar.
It's wrong that bark speeders make just sort of like a typical engine noise of they should be woof 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 woof.
Yes. Not something about tree bark. I don't know.
Oh gosh.
I'm so sorry. This is why this segment goes on forever, because I can't just let Ben read his notes.
Yeah. No, it's if it was just me reading, it would be really boring. Gonna interrupt. So here's some stuff about a good old Kelleran Beck, aka Ahmed Best. Obviously the character was created for Jedi Temple Challenges. While developing that show, Ahmed Best was given pretty much free reign and free creativity to create the character all his own, make his own backstory, even pick his own lightsaber color. So he also established himself that he is related to Ahmed Beck, who is in Attack of the Clones in the Outlander Club in the background. So that is canon. That is best canon. Okay, it's not actually Wikipedia. Wikipedia is specifically says like this isn't canon. This isn't technically canon. Like I'm taking Ahmed's word. Okay,
I don't want average canon. I want best canon.
The best.
Keep our eye only on the best.
Yeah, eye on best.
So the lightsaber that he has in Jedi Temple Challenges is a purple lightsaber. It's an intentional nod to Mace Windu and Sam Jackson. But it's not the same lightsaber in this one. Obviously, he has a green lightsaber. This one, I compared the hilts, and they are different. So my personal headcanon that maybe he lost his old lightsaber, and different. I think maybe the kind of out of universe perspective, maybe they just didn't want it to be too similar to Mace Windu. They wanted to kind of like keep that special, having a purple lightsaber. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But also they established that the lightsaber that he uses in Jedi Temple Challenges, all the pieces of that lightsaber can be found in Savvy's workshops. You can literally go to Savvy's workshop and build your own Kelleran Beck lightsaber.
His lightsaber in this, it had the look of like a Savvy's hilt. Like it just, I was looking at it going like that looks like something. Yeah. Like it's that sort of the Savvy's hilts are a bit longer and a bit thicker than the typical screen used ones. So it had that look to it.
Who needs to build props? We can just go to Galaxy's Edge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And finally, so the little piece of armor that Grogu gets from the armorer she calls it a rondelle. And I was like, oh, it's a perfect fit for good old Grogu, but like, where would this actually go on Mandalorian armor? I can't really answer that, but I do know that a rondelle is a real piece of armor for real world knights in shining armor, and it's a little piece that goes right kind of right in front of your armpit, kind of a little protective piece that goes in there. So I don't know like where that would go, like, because I'm thinking of like a human Mandalorian armor being like, okay, where does that go? But also Grogu's never going to be human sized, so where does that go on him? What's a Yoda sized pair of Mandalorian armor look like? I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the future, but he has his first piece, and that is all she wrote for Ben's Connection Corner.
All right. Well, Ben, why don't you give us your final thoughts and score out of 10 before you run?
All right, so like I said, I really did enjoy this episode. It's hard to separate the whole Kellerman Beck reveal for this because it was just so exhilarating. But not my favorite of the season, but I think it helped that it was kind of short and sweet and got to the point. Which is kind of my criticism of last week's episode, that it kind of dragged on a little bit. But I think we got some really fantastic visuals, and of course, the return of a legend, which you just can't bark at. So I'm going to say that I'll give this one an 8 out of 10.
All right, 8 out of 10 from Ben. All right, Ben. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you this weekend for the Bad Batch. And of course, we're gonna play you out with your favorite song, the theme song to Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, see you later, Ben. All right, let's talk about the Naboo guards.
Before we do, I do want to make a note about the lightsaber.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Just a bit of a thought. Lightsaber, and then first of all, also the Beskar. I mean, I think I count the chainmail as his first piece of Beskar, and then the rondel. But first one we've seen in the Forge. Anyway, the lightsabers. I get with the purple, the connection to Mace Windu, and wanting to honor what Sam Jackson did there. Ahmed Best's reasoning for that always felt a little bit Grey Jedi-esque for me. Like this is some cool, not always like the edgy sort of. We want to get into the. Tap into the dark side because we don't want to have such the dogma of the light versus the dark, and we know George Lucas, at least when his conception of light and dark, that doesn't really work, right? I mean, for Mace Windu, he has a purple lightsaber because he's a cautionary tale. Like he goes in a direction we're not meant to follow, in his tapping into the dark side and being so strict and dogmatic and so easily willing to assassinate someone. Even if it's the Dark Lord of the Sith. So I was relieved, frankly, that the first time we see Kellerman Beck in the show is with a green lightsaber, which it isn't as in the lore, it isn't as fully light as say a blue, but it still signifies a servant of the Force in a way that purple doesn't as clearly. And so yeah, I'm glad I don't know if there was any kind of conversation about that at all whatsoever. Like you said, it probably just didn't want to become too close to Mace Windu and Sam Jackson, and he's just flown out a window, and we don't want to. I mean, if we're gonna have Mace Windu come back, it's gonna be with Sam Jackson, right? But
that's next week.
Yeah, that's next week. There we go. I'm glad that. Again, I don't know if there's any real conversation around that, but in my head canon, my canon, Matthew canon, that's why the game show version of the character can do what he wants, but in the actual live action storyline, it's evergreen.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, like I said, let's touch on the Naboo reveal here. And Chris, I'll throw it to you. What do you think of that? That it's the Naboo guards that it's not just Ahmed Best, like it's a full Phantom Menace reunion. It's Ahmed Best and the Naboo guards that take Grogu off world.
I forgot about that part. I've only seen this episode once, and like my brain was so much about thinking about the Ahmed Best part that I completely forgot that there also was the moment with the Naboo starship and the Naboo guards. Like that was really cool to see that too. Completely forgot about that. Awesome. Love that.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, Matthew, any theories on where this might be going? Any idea?
Yeah.
Ben was kind of dropping characters that this could be related to. Any thoughts?
So in the chat, got to shout out to the chat here, has mentioned Sabe, and only because in the lead up to Andor, this is my dark horse speculation. E.K. Johnston and Greg Pak have done such an amazing job, including a comic I just read a few hours ago with Darth Vader number 32, really getting into what Sabe is up to. A good, I don't know, I forget, maybe 5-6 years before this. Probably, yeah, it's about then. Just before Return of the Jedi. She's gone on a journey, and I know it's paper. I know it's the relationship between paper and screen is not what I would have told you it was a year and a bit ago. But
just remind me real quick. Sabe is Keira Knightley, right?
Sabe is Keira Knightley. She originally, like the Queen's shadow, but in paper, she's gone on a journey. She's gone on a story. To find her own character, find who she is, independent of Padme, especially, and partly morally independent, and also not trying to spoil too much in the comic here, but it kind of there's no question this whole Greg Pak Darth Vader comic is all about not all about, but a large part, she is the second character in this. Just a lot like Bo-Katan is in The Mandalorian. Is she kind of undercover, or is she actually going to join him and join Darth Lord Vader? And also part of that is setting Vader up to be confronted by Luke in Return of the Jedi. But if Sabe makes it out of that storyline, or if she doesn't and they're just going to go ahead and retcon, I don't know. Like there's still a connection, there's still a tie to this leader on Naboo, and I would really like to see. I mean, it's very compelling in paper. I would love to see it. It would blow my mind. Again, it's still the dark horse. It's still the probably not. Who knows if Favreau and Filoni know too much about what's happening on paper? But my Ion Cannon dark horse in there. At the very least, I didn't even think, frankly, who might be on the other end of this. If it's any character we know, it would be nice. I was more, that's really interesting that it's Naboo specifically. There's a specific choice there that we will see, and that it's following the same pattern as with Din, how it stops part way because the armor is done forging the thing. So
stops hitting that hammer. It's like, all right, so the flashback's over. Yeah. I had a quick look at Keira Knightley's IMDb. She's got a movie coming out this year. Actually, it might have just come out. It might have been like a streaming movie. But there's not a whole lot not a whole lot going on that 2022, 2024 in that sort of range there. So I don't know. Maybe she could swing by Manhattan Beach and film a few scenes there in California.
It's my cold take. I'll own that, but I still love it.
But you know who else it could be? This just occurred to me. And this actually relates back to a Ben's Connection corner from fairly recently. The Queen of Naboo in I think the final scenes of Revenge of the Sith, that actress is voicing a character on the Bad Batch right now. The scientist on Tantus. Maybe she's another one that's being brought back into the fold, and they can put her in the makeup, and the Queen of Naboo is out there rescuing Jedi somehow. So it's another one that could play.
That would work.
This.
I mean, that makes sense.
So flashback ends. The armor stops hitting the hammer. We've talked about the roundel a little bit with the mud horn, which is a nice touch, a nice callback. And so we rejoin the hunting party, the war party, and they're sitting around a campfire. And this is where I'm thinking, all right, here's where we're going with this story. You don't have a campfire scene if you're not going to have people sit around the campfire and talk. And literally what happens? Din's like, everybody goes their separate ways. We don't hang out together. And I'm like, oh, so we're just, so nothing's happening. Nothing is happening. And, Paz Vizsla says to Bo, okay, you're the leader of this. You get to stay by the fire. And you get that moment where she takes off her helmet and she's going to eat. And I was thinking like, okay, maybe we're going to stay in this moment with Bo for like an extended period and like try and like understand where she's at. Nope. Quick cut. We're away from it. His helmet came off. We saw it was Katie's face, and we're on to the next scene. I'm like, okay, so we're getting nothing out of this. Then we're climbing up. Then we're going rock climbing. I know it's not, it's a decent, it's fine. It's a decent rock climbing scene. It's not as good as Free Solo. If I want to watch people rock climb, I'm going to watch that instead.
Tell us what you really think, Tom.
Yeah, right. Then they get up to the top of the thing. You get the reveal that it's Paz Vizsla's son. Okay, that's a nice little decent reveal. And he like charges in. It's the classic, father, run in to rescue. And it turns out there's the baby dino, baby dragons, and they're kind of cute, but it kind of scary at the same time. And then was the dragon storing the kid in its stomach? Like what? It like spits it up.
Mouth.
Like, where did that come from?
It was in its mouth. It was gonna feed the children. It was gonna regurgitate the kid to the children.
And then we just have another scene where like the whole point is, hey, let's murder this creature. And they do rescue the kid, and it ends with there's always a bigger fish, where the freaking crocodile from the for other episode comes out and eats it. And I'm like, I don't know. I understand the creature attacks are a quintessential part of Star Wars, but they typically serve a purpose in the story. Like if we look at them in the original trilogy, they're a way of tracking Luke's abilities with the Force. In A New Hope, he gets attacked by the Dianoga and needs to be rescued by Han and just kind of spit out by it. Or you could even say he's attacked by the Tusken Raider, needs to be rescued by Old Ben. Okay, all right. So that sort of starts off. He's at the beginning. And Empire Strikes Back, he's attacked by the Wampa. We see that, okay, he's starting to be in tune with the Force. He's able to call the lightsaber to him and escape. Return of the Jedi, Rancor scene. We see how competent and just how mature Luke is now that he's really grown into his role as a warrior, or not even as a warrior, just as a Jedi. And in this scene, they kill the beast, save the kid, and that's about it. And Chris, you're raising your hand, so I'll let you say your piece on it. But
this is a massive character development episode.
Yes.
Like I am surprised that I'm hearing this. Okay, so here we go. So the whole point of Bo-Katan's character is that after her group abandoned her, like the people that were following her abandoned her. She has no following. She can't be a leader. That is the whole point of her character. And that's where you see her at the beginning of the season when she's moping around being by herself on a throne. And that's why they showed that. And so the purpose of this episode was rebuilding her leadership capabilities. That is why you have her. Initially, they don't know what to do. They go after the creature after it takes the kid and Paz Jr. or whatever, and like they don't know what to do. And then she's the one that takes the initiative to go out and find where the kid is and where the creature is. And that's like a huge moment right there, because that's showing that she has more initiative than everyone else. Then she's the one that leads the party. The reason why you have the scene with the campfire is it's a scene to show that they are beginning to respect her. Them leaving the fire and letting her stay there is showing that they're beginning to respect her as a leader in a way that her followers stopped. So she's starting to regain that. And that is why that's added in. That scene is there. And then the whole purpose of, again, her triumphantly rescuing the child and leading this party to do this is to show that they are starting to gain respect for her as a leader, as a character, as a person. That's the whole point. Now, in a sense, this kid owes a life debt to her. So I think what this is setting up is setting up a moment where she is going to lead a group of these people into battle for some reason. I don't know if it's going to be Mandos fighting Mandos, or them fighting Thrawn, or them fighting the Empire, or maybe they're fighting the New Republic, because they're not really showing. It's going to be
a crossover between a Tyrannosaurus Rex and like an eagle or something.
But here's the thing: is like they're gonna develop. This is very much, a lot of this reminded me of the early seasons of Game of Thrones, and how like Daenerys had like the baby dragons, and then that played a huge part into the the story. And then it added to like the legitimacy of the character. Like I think we're gonna have Mandalorians riding these creatures, and there's like 3 of them, just like there was like 3 dragons initially or so. And then that's what we're gonna get is we're gonna get Bo-Katan.
I do feel like I'm back listening to a Game of Thrones podcast from like circa 2014.
Sure.
It's like John's gonna ride one, Danny's gonna ride the other, Tyrion's gonna ride the third. And look where that got us.
No, but I mean, here's the thing. She's probably not gonna ride one of them, but she's gonna be leading them into battle. They're gonna have these creatures. They're gonna they're gonna play into it.
We know who she's gonna ride.
I only want to see her ride one of those creatures if she rides it like a panther.
I'm surprised that meme hasn't came back.
We need to bring
I don't
it back.
think I don't think she's gonna be riding the creatures, but I think she's gonna be like leading them into battle, and then the creatures might show up at some point in the other characters. And it'd be kind of funny if like the kid, like Paz Jr., is riding one of them because like he almost got fed to them. Like that would be kind of funny. So I think that this is like a massive character development episode for her that then doubles with the B plot of a exposition about the history of Baby Yoda, of Grogu, and then moving his character forward, giving him the armor. We've been waiting for that moment for a while too, and that happened. So like that's why I think this is like a mega stuff Oreo episode, because it does all this character development and setting up all this stuff with Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians, and then also sets all this stuff up with Grogu as well, and develops his character a little bit more. So I saw it as a huge writing episode and a huge plot advancement episode, not let's take have a filler episode where we're gonna go have another creature attack. Like I didn't see it that way.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that word. I didn't say that word. Look, what you're saying, it makes sense. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I just didn't get that from the episode. I got it in like one moment. I got the moment of respect. That where Paz says this is the way to her, and she says it back. I got that moment. I appreciated that moment. But instead of being a mega double, triple, quadruple stuff Oreo to me, this is like one of those thins Oreos that is like it's a really thin layer of cream in there where it's like there's a little bit there, but it's not enough. It's not what I'm looking for. It's not what I want.
Listen, to make you feel better, I had a dream last night where I knew I was going to do this thing with the mega stuff Oreo because I did this. I got these yesterday, and in my dream, somehow someone had replaced my mega stuffed Oreos with the mint Oreos, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And then I'm like, well, this counts too because like that stuff, Grogu's green, the mint.
There we
green.
go.
I was like going through this whole thing
They're
about how I
Grogu
do the same
Oreos.
bit with the mint Oreos, and it worked. So any Oreos will do.
I want to jump in on that. I mean, so it's the little mini thin ones. It's a very tight, economical episode. And
but I don't want a thin Oreo. I want what Chris got out of this episode, which is the mega stuff.
You want the chicken we had before you abandoned me.
Yes, that's what I want.
Yeah. Speaking of birds,
Peter's gonna be calling us.
Sorry, but I mean, so that's why I agree in that the moment with the helmet off, we get that look of relief and exhaustion. Then
so
of course she
quick.
goes back to her. It was quick. I agree.
So
If we gotten more, we would have felt it more. But it still spoke enough. It was it was long enough for my sense of what she's going through, what she's experiencing. I mean, it kind of like Luke dying in the side of Octo. I mean, it's similar kind of thing.
But Ryan let us stay in that moment, and we just don't in this episode. Like it's so quick. It moves too fast. I don't usually complain about run times because I always say use however long you need for the runtime. So if you have enough story for 30 minutes, just do 30 minutes. If you have enough story for 55 minutes, like last week, do the 55 minutes. Sure. And this is an episode I feel like needed not even 5 more minutes, like 3 more minutes to let some of these things sink in. But I get where again, I get sort of the idea behind the Bo-Katan stuff that you guys are laying out. But to me, it just, they were already kind of going in that direction from last week. Just the moment at the end where the watch was welcoming her in was already kind of making me see like, okay, yeah, this is they're going to be accepting of her. If it had been a more contentious, more confrontational relationship, which I think, was kind of teased in the Book of Boba Fett when, the Mandarin, the armorer, says to Din, like, Bo-Katan, cautionary tale. Like, I thought things might be more contentious there, but everybody just seemed to accept her right away as part of the club. And
well, I think about that. My thoughts about that is, one, there was that big contention with Din, and then when he talks about how he's bathed in the living waters of the mines of Mandalore, that, all of a sudden the contention goes away with him. And then when they realize that she has too, if these people do anything, they follow the way, right? So, so they're like, all right, well, we'd have no problem with you anymore because, like, orthodoxically we could. Well, and I think that's part of it. And here's the other thing. This is what I like about this. And this goes back to what I said at the beginning, when I was talking about this, like over an hour ago, is we still don't know if Bo-Katan's a hero or a villain. And what I like about this is if they had brought her in and it was really contentious, we'd then expect that contention to be resolved, and it would create a catharsis that would make us think that she was a hero, and it wouldn't really fit really well if she then turned villainous after. But I
disagree there.
But yeah, see, I have the opposite view. I feel like there's an unease around how well things are going. I feel like it feels uneasy. It feels surreal. It feels like we're missing something. And I think it's because she's really playing along and trying not to be contentious on purpose. And that makes me feel like she has ulterior motives at some point. She's going to betray somebody. And that's really interesting to me.
Look, if that's where we wind up going, I think that's an exciting idea. I also agree that there's sort of, there's something a little bit odd. Things are going a little bit too well for the Children of the Watch. And it does feel like there's another shoe to drop in here somewhere. But I feel like this episode needed more drama that wasn't, oh my God, kill the beast. It needed more tension. It needed more like, can we trust each other? Can we work together? Can we, we didn't agree. We argued all the time beforehand. Like, that's what I'm talking about with the campfire scene. If they had stuck around, they can keep their helmets on and have this fight, but like go back and forth about these ideas a little bit, get into it a little bit. It moved on too quickly. And even the idea of just sort of getting a moment to sit with Bo-Katan as she sort of, contemplates where she is, and we could read into it. Maybe some people think she's plotting something. Other people will think she's feeling good about where she is. I think Katie Sackhoff is a good enough actor to portray a moment like that where it is one thing, and we'll find out what that one thing is down the line. But we can read it multiple different ways in the moment when we don't know the full context of it. So I felt like this episode was lacking in any real drama because it seemed clear to me that the kid was going to be saved by the end, and the action sequence against the dragon wasn't anything new. We just had a big creature attack in the premiere. We spent a lot of time in the second episode fighting different sort of creatures and aliens and monsters. And it's sort of like, it was like, here we are again. It's just this one has wings. And, look, I will say the creature looked terrific. I thought I was watching House of the Dragon there for a couple of moments. Like that looked like, some of those dragons we see on HBO. So like, I think that side of it was really, really good. But there just wasn't enough drama to the storyline for, some of the moments that you're talking about of, Bo-Katan establishing herself as a leader in this group. It just didn't feel earned to me. It didn't have the necessary sort of overcoming of something. It all just worked a little too well, is what I'm getting at. And in the end, and again in the end, the creature sequence just wasn't exciting enough for me. It wasn't exciting enough for me, and there was no twist to it. I'm getting real tired of it. Just kill the monster. There's got to be a twist to it. Like, the monster is actually good. The monster is actually protecting something. I like that they saved the babies. That was a nice touch. I thought that was a very good moment when they sort of are leading them off the ship. But yeah, whatever they were going for in this episode, this wasn't it for me. And again, this is what I've been yammering on about with Bad Batch this season, is it all comes down to personal taste, and this was not to my personal taste at all.
I mean, I see what you're saying. Maybe this helps me understand the choice in this episode to make it simpler. I'm not going to use the F word. It's not there.
No, it's not. It's not. I'm not arguing that.
But it may be more of a transitional episode, a setup episode. In the classic kind of Dave Filoni thing that he has these setup episodes in all of his series that provide lay the groundwork for a more contentious circumstances later on. And so, yeah, again, Dom, I get what you're saying. Knowing that we have a bit of a journey to go, I'm using that journey again. Bit of a journey to go. It doesn't bug me as much. There's going to be more to come.
I think all that stuff,
including everything at the last scene, which I know we'll get to.
Yeah, well, and this is again, this is what I was saying off the top with the sports analogy. The Leafs lost 7-2 to the New York Islanders on Tuesday. I was real annoyed in the moment, and I let it wash over me. And then, tonight while we were recording, they beat the Florida Panthers 6-2. So they bounced right back and had a great game. So I'm fully expecting next week to be that. And I'm not down on the show or down on the season by any stretch of the imagination. This episode wasn't for me. That's all.
Also helps that the Bad Batch was also good.
It was very good.
So again, I'm more forgiving of Mando when it's just entertaining.
Yeah. Let's talk about the final scene, which is they get back. They've everybody cheers that Kid Vizsla is alive. Everybody's sort of excited by these 3 dragon babies that they've got. And we get a moment between Bo-Katan and the Armorer, where the Armorer sort of praises Bo-Katan and her leadership, and then says, "Oh, you need to make you a new shoulder piece." And that's when Bo asks for a mythosaur skull. To me, this is again what I've been saying about Bo all season, is that she's been thinking of herself as Mandalorian, but outside of the traditions. She's part of the Night Owls, which is not really, she's not one of those Mandalorians. And seeing the mythosaur 2 episodes ago was a real wake-up call for her that, not all the traditions are awesome, but there's more to it than she's giving them credit for. And that's where, and then over the last couple of episodes with the Children of the Watch, she's been more part of it, more part of the classic Mando culture. And this is, a little bit of visual storytelling of her going, yeah, I'm part of the Night Owls. I'm my own person. I don't subscribe to just whatever Mandalorians say, but I also honor and respect the traditions of my people. I'm open to change, but also, I know where I come from. So I did, this is a moment I did like in the episode, and I liked her sort of asking the Armorer, and the Armorer being all coy about, whether she believes in a mythosaur or not. What did you guys think of this moment?
I mean, I'll state the obvious. She's clearly impacted by that moment. She's clearly shook by the possibility. Oh, this mythical creature, mythosaur. Again, part of the ingrained psyche, ancient psyche of her people, of the people she's encountered, even Din's people, even though he's a foundling, but clearly the Armorer. This ancient symbol that has bound all Mandalorians together. She's actually seen it in the flesh, literally, and clearly that's as much as being welcomed into the Children of the Watch, as much as her, I mean, even her, the everything going on and taking her ship and being part of the hunting party and whatnot, leading the hunting party. That moment also clearly shook her, and it is significant that it happens as a form of baptism. There's this question of who is the Baptist in this story, who is the one who is initiating both Din and Bo-Katan into this new phase of new part of their life, a new embrace of of that ancient tradition and of the diversity of communities that have this whole thing in common. It could be the mythosaur itself. And so, yeah, we could say, is she just using that as a way of as good PR? People might read that into that. I mean, at least the way Katie Sackhoff is presenting it, even in her vocal performance under the mask, there's clearly some working through of the implications of, I've actually witnessed this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm using witness, sorry to be a bit of a kind of a churchy language, but I've encountered this confrontation with my own cynicism and my own doubt.
I want to take it further into that, because I mean, it again, you have the mythosaur, which has the word myth in it. And this is a very mythological thing that's going on. So it reminds me of kind of like the St. George and the Dragon thing a lot. So you think that maybe her defeating or like taming this beast is going to be part of her ascension in a very kind of like St. Georgian type way.
Yeah. I mean, I think you want to talk about which creature she's going to ride.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean,
Like
just like Tarvisla did,
Yeah.
I mean, Paz and Ragnar's ancestor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is sort of what the armor is kind of, I think, implying at the end of that scene is, she said, in previous episodes, the songs of eons past tell of, Mandalore the Great who tamed the mythosaur. And then she says, in this episode, when one walks the way of the Mandalore, and she's kind of like, she's alluding to the fact that, this might be your real rite of passage. There's been no talk of that freaking Darksaber all season. Nobody's mentioned it like at all.
Shocked.
And I'm wondering if, Bo-Katan jumping on a mythosaur and taming it. I think that might be that symbol, that story that Moff Gideon was talking about. She doesn't need the blade, but she can prove herself by taming the mythosaur. So yeah, I think I think there's something going on there, and this is why honestly, like coming into the season, I think Chris, I was a little bit more on your wavelength about is she plotting something? Is she going to betray people? Is she going to be revealed to be the villain or the antagonist of the season? The way the season has gone thus far, I'm sensing a real sincerity from her.
If Game of Thrones taught me anything. Goodness, I will not succumb to this.
I will say,
I mean, that's true. She may burn this mother down at the second last episode.
But that's the contrast with the Darksaber. The Darksaber is a symbol of opposition to the Jedi. It's a blade, whereas the mythosaur, probably could wreak havoc, but again, it's a symbol of unity. It's a symbol of gathering. And I mean, one of the things that was pointed out to me in talking about that earlier episode, the mythosaur, it isn't aggressive. It isn't violent. It just regards Bo and Din as they go up. It's more benign than the Bendu, but makes me think of the one the Bendu is looking at Kanan and Ezra. But even in a more benign way, in that here to support and gather.
Well, it's they didn't bother it, so it didn't bother them. Like I think last week we talked about there's some surprise that the episode didn't open up with another creature sequence and an attack on the mythosaur and all this stuff. And in the end, I think that's the smarter choice. The idea that this creature, it's not out there seeking violence. It isn't attacking people for the sake of attacking people. I'm sure if it's attacked, it'll defend itself, but it's not looking for that. And look, if all these creature attacks this season are leading up to something where they think, oh, we're gonna have to fight the Mythosaur, and the Mythosaur's like, hey, like, why can't we all just like get along? We're all Mandalorians here. I'm on board. I'm on board with that.
You want the subversion of the kaiju. That is what you're going for here.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Dave Filoni's just way too far on that train. Like I don't think it's gonna happen. Like I think we're gonna end up with Zilla Beast and Mythosaur fighting each other in Coruscant. Zilla Beast being controlled by
that's episode 10, isn't it?
Or for
that's the return to the Skywalker saga. The Dave Filoni directed episode 10 ends with the Mythosaur fighting the Zillo Beast.
Which one? The one in Bad Batch or the one in Clone Wars?
Both of them, maybe. Just like it's all real throwdown with all of them. And just off camera, Dave Filoni gets his one cameo where he goes, "Let them fight."
100%.
Amazing. All right. Anything else we want to bring up before we hit final thoughts and scores out of 10 for this one? Nope. Okay. So just to remind everybody, we've got a 9.5 from this episode for Hannah, and an 8.5 from Ben for this episode. So Matthew, start us off. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Again, I think it's a very tight, economical, transitional episode that is leading to more things. I'll agree. It wasn't the most mind-blowingly exciting or engrossing, but it was still, I think when the season's over, we're going to look back and say, oh, it did what it meant to do and did what it set out to do. So I don't do numbers. I don't do scores. So I'm going to cheat and say I give it 66 orders over 2 lightsabers out of 2 lightsabers.
Wait.
66 orders. Okay, over 2
out
lightsabers.
of 2 lightsabers.
I don't know if that's
out of
gonna,
2 lightsabers.
That's not going to fit in the spreadsheet, but okay.
That's worse than imperial math.
Chris, over to you. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for The Foundling.
Yeah, I mean, it was not the best episode of the show, but it was a pretty darn good episode that I really liked, and I agree with Matthew. I think it's setting up a lot of cool stuff in the future. And I just love that we got some cool stuff with Grogu that we've been waiting on for a while with the armor and the full flashback sequence. So I think that really helped everything else that was pretty good make it all into a great episode. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This is a pretty good, borderline great episode for me.
Okay, 9 out of 10. So like I said earlier, I'm going to break this episode into 2 halves. Coruscant half and the Mandalorian half. And the Coruscant half, 8 out of 10. Love seeing Ahmed Best. Solid chase scene through the streets. The Naboo stuff, I'm a little bit iffy on, but okay, all right, I'm willing to see where that goes. I love that everybody spent all of the last year debating and theorizing who was going to come through that door on Order 66, and it turned out to be no one. It's a completely different door that he came through, and it was also not anybody who anybody was expecting. So that was cool. I thought some of the visuals outside the Jedi Temple were kind of weak. I felt like we saw maybe the limitations of the volume. There was also some odd shots of the clone troopers shooting at Ahmed Best, we'll just say at Keller and Beck, and they just felt a little bit, I don't know, they didn't feel up to snuff for what we expect visually from the Mandalorian. So that's where I kind of lower it a little bit and go to the 8 out of 10. But for the Mandalorian half, like I said, it's like a 2 out of 10. It really didn't. It really didn't do any of the things I needed from this episode, and I didn't like what it did. The creature stuff was repetitive and boring, frankly, to me. The paintball scene was okay. The Bo-Katan scene with the armorer was good. Those two were that's where you get some of the points in there. But the whole sequence and it didn't show me enough about these characters. It felt like there was just characters on an adventure, and there were opportunities in this story to get into the character stuff and to explore that a little bit. And they just didn't go for it for whatever reason. So it's a 2 out of 10. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have the scores so that it's It's 8 out of 10, so that's a 4 out of 5. And then it's a 2 out of 10, so that's a 1 out of 5. So we're going to add it together, and we're going to give this episode a 5 out of 10.
What type of Common Core math was that? You had to like convert from like 10s to 5s. But wait, you didn't
It's
have
my
to do
fault. I
that.
did the 66 orders out of 2 lightsabers.
You could have just taken an 8 and taken 2 out of the 8 and then divided that by 2 and then added that for 1 or subtracted for the other.
What?
I was supposed to do that.
Square root of pi.
Yeah. You know what? We don't do math on this show. But the end result, 5 out of 10.
One thumb up out of 2 thumbs. That is how you reduce a fraction. If you're gonna start reducing fractions,
I remember when I think the last time I was on Underworld, it was the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka Luke episode, and I remember giving that a 3 out of 10. So
yeah,
and I got to rewatch that.
See, that is not reducible, so that is a valid score.
Okay, I got to
3 out of
rewatch
10
that one. I got to up that score, but
that's fine.
So we're even done.
5 out of 10. That's what we go with. From the chat, Tony Peterson gives it an 8.5. Joel Davis goes with an 8 out of 10. Chosen Nightwolf says 10 out of 10 for me. Excellent episode. Matthew Hardy goes 8 out of 10. And George Rogers goes 8 out of 10 as well. Let's hit a couple of super chats. We got another score here in the chat. Kenny Carley Jr. gives it 9.5 out of 10. All right, now let's hit some super chats. Starting with Matthew, your co-host Joel on Ion Cannon saying, how much super chat money I gotta give to get you guys to book the whole Ion Cannon team on the show? LOL. Love things singing.
I think you just gotta do karaoke, Joel.
Yeah, Joel, you gotta do some karaoke. We'll get you on the show. That's what we do at the next IHOP party. Karaoke. There we go.
Yes. You better.
Amazing. Joel also says with a super chat, the one thing about this season I'm curious to see where it goes is what exactly is Favreau trying to say about the cult? Are they good? Are they bad? Or what? I think he's saying it's nuanced.
Yeah.
Like there's some good things to it. Cults do foster community. For better or for worse, they foster a community. That is a good thing. But what you do with that community can be very bad. And that's sort of what what we're going to explore with this particular cult.
I mean, it depends on, because the bad things that happen, we call that toxic, right? Manipulative, controlling leadership, for the sake of, in the name of the symbol, in the name of the group cohesion, but people losing their agency, losing their dignity, and leading to abusiveness. So that's kind of what people think when they think of cult. I mean, what if this is just a fringe religious group that has some weird things that don't make sense, but some really good benevolent things that can contribute to the wider, the wider Mandoverse, wider Mandalorian society. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the way it's nuanced and more open to the possibility of the power of symbol and the power of myth, even as it's really tangibly experienced. The power of even these rules. This is the way they actually. To be fair to them, they actually live it out and they go for it. They actually, and the number one rule is protect the vulnerable and take care of them. So.
Yeah,
something to it.
Yeah, there's good in here. That's what I keep saying about Bo-Katan is she's recognizing that there is some good in these traditions, even if not all of them are awesome. Joel, continuing on about the watch, says the watch is weird. When Din saved the kid the first time, they hated Din since he took the helmet off. Now Bo saved the kid, and they shower praise since she's following the way. Hypocritical much? I mean, yeah, sure, yeah, it is. You've never seen a hypocrite? Never. We're all hypocrites sometimes.
Yeah.
We all do things that we say we shouldn't do. That's just how we are. But yeah, it's a fair point. Fair point. Joel also says hate has always existed, sadly, pre-internet. I read a fan magazine from the 80s where they said they could no longer support Star Wars in a good conscience after The Empire Strikes Back ruined it. What is the equivalent of Ruin Johnson for Irvin Kershner? I can't think of what it could be.
I have seen this. I think I saw it when
I've seen this, but I also recall reading there was like more to it than that, and there were like follow-ups to it that were like I feel like there's more to this story. Was what I'm getting at. Maybe
I've only read the original.
Maybe we'll have to do an investigative report.
I just remembered them saying that the movie lacked love and it wasn't Star Wars because of that.
It's dark and plotting. I mean, it's a lot slower than A New Hope.
Yeah. Another one from Joel. He says, "Let's see Jar Jar and the Handmaidens hide Grogu once they get to Naboo." That's my hope.
That would be awesome.
Pretty good.
I want to make an erratum correction to my previous comment about Sabe on that note. So I kind of implied Sabe being after in the Mandoverse 6 years after Return of the Jedi. Her story in terms, at least in terms of V.K. Johnston and her novels, that's closer in the timeline to this. So I want to say I am clear about where the timelines are. She's just had her breakup with Padme at this point, and she's off trying to save slaves free slaves, and she's connected up at this point with Bail Organa and joining the rebellion. So that adds credence to it, I think. But just to I really love that. I would really love that, including Jar Jar being involved.
Yeah, it's just
you get Jar Jar and Ahmed Best. What if you have what do you have? Wait, what's the new character's name?
Kelleran Beck.
Kelleran.
It's the same as the video game or the game show character.
So what if you have Kellogg Beck talking to Jar Jar? That would be funny.
2021, whenever this was filmed, they could totally do that with that technology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A couple more super chats here. Joel also says, much like Jon Snow, I will be okay if Din does not end up being a Mando king and just kind of goes off his own way after all the big mythic work is done. Yeah, I kind of like that about Jon Snow's spoiler alert, but I kind of like that about his ending. And maybe a few years after Mandalorian, we'll get a spin-off series called Jaren or Mando or Din or something.
If that's the case,
like they're doing with Jon.
Then Paz Jr. Vizsla will become the king.
He'll become king. Yep. I mean, Grogu is the most brand-like of all of them, but
I
I
mean, his name's Ragnar Vizsla, like Ragnarok. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's a Vizsla, right? I mean, that's again Mandalorian heritage, Mandalorian culture and history that I really would want to see explore more, especially in this series.
Yeah.
Bend the knee, Bend the knee.
To Ragnar, the kid that Grogu beat in the Dart game.
Yep. And finally from Joel, he says, well, I like the episode. I'll give this to Dominic. I've said many times, but John is just not a great writer. He's not bad, but not great. Yeah, Joel, we're in 100% agreement on that. John is a tremendous storyteller, but the nitty gritty of the writing is suspect sometimes. And I think he often needs another draft or a co-writer. And as I said last week, having Noah Clure co-write that episode with him, I think made it a stronger episode. This week, I know it was written by both of them, but I kind of feel like Dave wrote the Order 66 stuff and John wrote the Mando stuff. And that's just kind of, the script was just kind of smashed together by the armorer with her hammer.
Actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then George Rogers has a super chat here. Thanks for making my night better. My night at work better. Been fighting a droid uprising all night. Always enjoy the show, especially when I can catch it live. Love it. Thank you so much, George. Appreciate it. And glad we can help. All right. Okay. So there's been a lot of news this week about what's going on with this Star Wars movie. There's been some more developments tonight as we've been recording. I try to avoid looking at my phone during the show, but I've been getting some sort of updates and stuff about what's been going on. So I'm going to say, let's save this. Right. Let's save this for next week, just because it's a little bit messy, and hopefully we'll have a clearer picture next week. Next week will also be about a week out from Celebration, where all this stuff is supposed to be announced. So hopefully we'll have a clearer picture. But if you're unfamiliar with it, the basic gist of it is Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson have left the project. The director, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, is still attached. And they've actually got a new writer already. It's the fellow who wrote Peaky Blinders for Netflix. I think that's what it is. I might be getting the show wrong.
That sounds correct.
Yeah. So it's sort of a fluid situation. We'll see what exactly is become of it, and obviously we'll get a much clearer picture if they make any announcement in 2 weeks' time at Star Wars Celebration. But yeah, Stephen Knight is the fellow who has taken over, and yeah, Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight is set to write the screenplay for the untitled Star Wars movie that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy of Miss Marvel fame is attached to direct. That's from Variety. So that's what's going on here. So interesting stuff, interesting situation, a developing situation, and we'll keep an eye on it. And who knows, maybe we'll even have a clearer picture this weekend when we talk Bad Batch, and maybe we can bring it up then. But speaking of celebration, so this is something we haven't done before, where the people listening to the audio version of the show and the people watching the video version of the show are two different things are about to happen right now. So if you are listening to the show, what you're about to hear is a chat that I recorded with a friend of the show, Graham E. Hancock of Blocks Magazine, to discuss Star Wars Celebration London. He talks about some panels he's doing, talks about to give some advice as a Londoner for everybody that's coming to London for Star Wars Celebration. And then we just talk a little Lego Star Wars because that's Graham's sweet spot. So you're going to hear that coming up in just a moment if you're listening to the show. If you're watching, we're going to upload this video, this segment separately. So it'll be up sometime tomorrow sometime on Friday. So probably today if you're watching this after the fact, tomorrow if you're watching live. So that'll go up tomorrow. It's a really fun chat. It's about 40 minutes long. We go over a lot of really good celebration advice, some good stuff to be on the lookout for at Celebration, and yeah, just some great Lego Star Wars chat. So enjoy that. So audio listeners, here's the conversation with Graham. Enjoy. Video listeners, tune in tomorrow. We got bonus content for you. What do you want? So big thanks to Graham for doing that with us. And of course, check out Blocks Magazine. Check out the panels that are going on at Star Wars Celebration. If I was slightly more prepared, I would tell you what those are right now. But if you're listening, you just heard it. So you know when they are, and you've written it down because you were taking copious notes, as I always tell you to do when you're listening to this show. You have to take notes.
Make a spreadsheet like I did last time.
The Lego Star Wars panel and the Star Wars in the 90s panel, which Star Wars in the 90s is right before the Star Wars. What's my panel called? Hold on. The bounty hunters, smugglers, gangsters, and the scum and villainy through the years. So you go to the Star Wars in the 90s panel on the university stage, and then you hustle over to the fan stage for bounty hunters, smugglers, and gangsters, the scum and villainy through the years, featuring myself, Chris Abbott, aka Star Raptor, Kieran Duggan, our senior British correspondent, and Star Wars authors Adam Christopher and Ethan Sachs. It's going to be a good time. All righty. I think that's enough. This show has gone on for quite some time, and I think it is time for us to begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching and listening. You can follow us at the SWU on social media for more updates throughout the week, breaking news and programming updates. I don't think we've decided when we're doing the Bad Batch show.
We haven't. We haven't.
Per typical. So you'll hear on social media whenever we decide to do that. But it is happening.
Click the bell. You'll get a notification.
That's right. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that you're alerted, so you can watch that live, or you know that it's there for you after the fact once it has been recorded. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure. As always, great fun talking about this episode. Yeah, that's right. I had fun even though I didn't like the episode. That's the beauty of Star Wars. But yeah, I'm like I said, I'm still looking forward to next week. It's a blip on the radar as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not worried about this season in the slightest. I think great things are ahead, and I do hope that they build off of what was in this episode, however little there may have been, in my estimation. But yeah, great fun, and obviously had a great time at Toronto Comic-Con this weekend with Matthew, going around, seeing the panels, seeing the stuff on the floor, and I'm just so annoyed and so disappointed that I missed the karaoke thing, but I'll be there next time, and I will also those videos, I'm glad those videos exist, so I'll thank Kareem for filming them, because that's been great. And also, again, big thanks to Graham for recording that interview with me, and I can't wait to see him and see everybody else in just over 2 weeks at Star Wars Celebration London. It's just around the corner. It's sneaking up on me a little bit, but I'm ready to go. It's going to be a great time, and I can't wait to share as much of that convention with y'all as I can. I just said y'all. I never say y'all. I hate it. Oh, that felt wrong. With you all, with everybody. I can't wait to, through whatever means we managed to pull that off. But there will be lots of coverage from the Star Wars Underworld at Celebration London, so be on the lookout for that. All right, that's enough. I've rambled. I'm out. Can't wait to do this again in 7 days' time. And less than 7 days' time when we talk Bad Batch.
Yes, and you can follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. I will be at WonderCon this weekend. That is what I'm doing. So I think I'm going to try to go to all the Star Wars related panels there. Nice. So you might see me there. I know there's like a one with the former head of fan relations at Lucasfilm Friday at 5:30.
Steve Sansweet's doing a panel?
No, another one. Another one.
Oh, there was another one?
Yes.
The only other one I know of is dead. Like
it's Craig Miller.
Oh, okay.
Who is the original director of fan relations and publicist for?
I thought that was Charlie Lippincott.
I guess.
Well, maybe those. I do think those two work together.
He was a publicist. He was a publicist for the original 2 movies.
Okay.
So this is like before anything.
Yeah,
like before Celebration, before any of that stuff. So that's the one that I'm excited for. So that's tomorrow.
Awesome.
Ashley Eckstein's also there. She's emceeing the cosplay contest on Saturday night, so I'm gonna try to make it to that as well. So
nice.
That'll be super fun. Matthew, thank you so much for hosting as well.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, the boot was under an attack. It was fun as always to jump on the flagship podcast. I enjoyed the episode. I always enjoy chatting with you. Dom, I see you all the time. Chris, good to see your face and interact with your face.
This is not the way.
What happened? Did I black out and miss parts of the episode?
All of our audio listeners thought I was following the way until you said that. And you outed me as an apostate.
It's your time. I'm not making sense here. Okay. Come on. Yes, it was great to interact in conversation with you, Chris.
Do you want me to do the plugs for you, Matt?
On Canon Pod, yes, definitely like and subscribe to this here channel, because Mondays 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on this here channel where Joel and I are doing all things. We are the home here on the Star Wars Underworld podcast for Lore, High Republic, and whole canon of the galaxy far away. We are taking a break this coming Monday because I'm going to a soccer thing. But usually, and hopefully Ben will move the main YouTube page around so our episodes are easier to see, easier to find. But yes, go check out our previous episodes. We typically have a different format than this. We don't do very much news heavy shows. We sometimes do, but often we pick a topic and we spend a good 40 minutes, hour chatting about a topic. I'm looking forward to a lot of focus on High Republic and a lot of focus on going to focus on the Acolyte, going to focus on comic runs that come out, but we will also sometimes talk about Bad Batch and Mandalorian, and we do a little bit off the top. Sometimes when the season's over, we're going to devote a full episode to that. Join the podcast Harriet, as I like to call it. But can follow. Yeah, I can check that out right here, as well as on the Underworld Facebook, on Ion Cannon's Twitter and Twitch at Ion Cannon Pod. And so check that out. Give us a like and a follow over there and interact with us. We're on the Discord. Joel and I are on the Discord. And yeah, you can, again, at Ion Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. Great name, Dom. gotta give you a shout out there. Follow me personally on Twitter at NEUG45, Instagram MNEUG1138. A bit more soccer. I guess I'll get my Comic-Con photos in there too. But the MLS season is underway. I'm gonna tweet about that as well.
If you check my Instagram, you can see Matt and I freezing our asses off at a soccer game on Saturday. So cold.
It was so fun.
Wow,
So
I didn't know they played
big win.
soccer in the winter.
Apparently they do. At a
Hey.
stadium next to a lake.
Oh,
Somebody
great
thought
idea.
that was a great idea. Yeah.
I would not want to be hit with that ball in the face. Ow.
So cold.
Dang. All right, thank you, Matthew. Also, thanks to Hannah and Ben for joining us earlier in the show. And make sure you check out all the other shows aside from Ion Cannon on our network as well, including Tales from Beyond the Galaxy and the Ray side, which can be found on their own respective channels. Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Twitch is the preferred way to watch their show, so make sure you check out Tales from Beyond the Galaxy on Twitch and the Ray side, RAE side, on YouTube. And of course, Ion Cannon is on this very channel, so you don't need to do anything. If you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified about their stuff as well when they go live as well. So definitely check that out. And as mentioned, check out that Star Wars Underworld Discord. The link is in the description to where you can join that. We have game night happening right around the corner on Friday night. Sounds like everybody's gonna be playing Fortnite, so make sure you join Joel and the gang over there on the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord to check that out. Once again, link is in the description and podcast notes and all of those things where you get your links. All right, that is it. We'll be back with another episode very soon, but until then, for Hannah and Ben and Dominic and Matthew, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
I bless the rains down in Africa. It's a wrap.
Oh my gosh.